Close your eyes for a second and imagine this. It's 20,000 years ago, and dawn is breaking over a rugged valley. A small band of humans steps out of a limestone cave, their breath visible in the crisp morning air. Some squint at the horizon, searching for signs of deer or bison, while others kneel by a smoldering fire, coaxing it back to life. This isn't the cartoonish world of grunting cavemen swinging clubs or dragging women by the hair. These are our Paleolithic ancestors, resourceful, clever, and deeply connected to their world. They were the ultimate survivors, thriving in a time when every day was a test of wit and will. Welcome to What the Big Bang, where we peel back the layers of history and science to reveal the truth. If you're fascinated by our ancient past, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into the Stone Age to uncover what cavemen really did every day. So, what's the Paleolithic? It's the longest chapter of human history, stretching from 2.6 million years ago, when our ancestors first chipped stones into tools, to about 12,000 years ago, when farming began to reshape the world. That's over 99% of our story as a species. A time without cities, writing, or modern tech, where small bands of hunter-gatherers roamed from African savannas to icy European plains. But don't picture a single, unchanging world. Early Homo habilis, scavenging in Ethiopia, 2 million years ago, lived a wildly different life from Cro-Magnon artists etching cave walls in France 20,000 years ago. Climate called the shots. Ice Age hunters bundled in hides faced brutal winters, while coastal groups in warmer regions fished and foraged under sunny skies. How do we piece this together? Archaeologists unearth clues. Stone tools, charred hearths, animal bones, even ancient dental plaque that tells us what they ate. Cave paintings and tiny figurines offer glimpses into their minds, while studies of modern hunter-gatherers, like the Sand People of Africa, provide hints, though we're careful not to assume too much across such vast time spans. Every region, every era had its own flavor of Paleolithic life. So, let's step into their world and follow a day in the life of a Stone Age band. What's the first thing you think they did each morning? Drop your guess in the comments and let's see if you're right. The Paleolithic day kicked off with the rising sun. No alarm clocks, no coffee runs, just the natural rhythm of light and dark, shifting with the seasons. First task? Keep the fire alive. Fire was everything. It cooked food, warmed bodies, and scared off predators like wolves or saber-toothed cats. Starting one from scratch was a slog. Spinning a stick to spark a flame could take hours, so most bands nurtured embers overnight, using slow-burning moss or bark. At Terra Amata in France, 380,000 years ago, archaeologists found hearths carefully tended, proof that fire was a daily ritual. Imagine the relief of seeing those flames flicker back to life as the morning chill faded. Next up, water. Someone in the band, maybe a teenager eager to prove themselves, trekked to a nearby stream or spring, filling animal bladders or tightly woven baskets sealed with resin. Back at the camp, the group huddled to plan the day. Was the food stash running low? Were their spears sharp enough for a hunt? Had anyone spotted fresh tracks? These bands, usually 20 to 30 people, think a mix of families divided tasks based on what needed doing, not strict rules. They were flexible, practical, and always ready to adapt. Sites like Gesher Beno Yaakov in Israel, nearly 800,000 years old, show they knew exactly when plants ripened, planning around seasonal cycles like master strategists. What do you think was tougher, finding water or keeping the fire going? Let me know in the comments. Food was the heartbeat of Paleolithic life. These were hunter-gatherers, chasing animals and foraging plants to survive. Men often took on big game deer, horses, even mammoths, while women gathered roots, berries, nuts, and sometimes hunted smaller animals like rabbits. But roles weren't set in stone. Skeletons show women with hunting injuries, proving everyone pitched in when needed. Hunting was no small feat. At Boxgrove, England, 500,000 years ago, a horse's shoulder blade bears a spear wound, clear evidence of organized hunting, not just scavenging scraps. Early tools were chunky stone hand axes, sharp but basic. By 400,000 years ago, at Schöningen, Germany, people crafted wooden spears so perfectly balanced they could have rivaled modern javelins. By 30,000 years ago, spear throwers, think handheld catapults, gave hunters deadly range, and in some regions, bows and arrows appeared by 20,000 years ago, but hunts weren't always successful, which is why plants were the real MVPs. Ancient dental plaque reveals a smorgasbord of tubers, fruits, seeds, leafy greens, and even medicinal herbs. Gathering wasn't just grabbing what looked edible. It demanded deep knowledge of seasons, habitats, and processing tricks. Imagine an elder teaching a child which roots needed roasting to avoid a stomachache. Those expertise passed down through generations. Fishing added to the menu. At Ohalo II in Israel, 23,000 years ago, people used bone hooks and woven nets to catch fish, showing they'd mastered aquatic resources. Seasons shaped what was on the table. Spring brought fresh eggs and greens. Summer offered juicy berries. Autumn meant nuts and seeds. And winter relied on stored foods like dried meat or frozen game. Storage was clever but simple. Dried meat became early jerky, and in cold regions, nature's freezer preserved kills. Cooking, mastered by at least 400,000 years ago, was a game changer. Roasting meat or boiling roots unlocked more calories and tamed tough plants. Compared to early farmers stuck on bread and gruel, Paleolithic diets were diverse and nutritious. Want to guess their favorite food? Drop it in the comments and stick around to see how they built their world from scratch. Tools were the backbone of Paleolithic survival, and crafting them was a daily ritual. Stone tools wore down quickly, so expert knappers shaped fresh blades or retouched old ones in minutes, their hands dancing with precision. The earliest tools, dating back 2.6 million years, were crude cobbles chipped to a sharp edge. Basic but brilliant. By 1.76 million years ago, Acheulean hand axes emerged as polished, symmetrical marvels, perfect for slicing or digging. By 50,000 years ago, the Upper Paleolithic unleashed a tool revolution. Bone burins for carving, hide scrapers, and delicate needles for stitching. Wood shone too. Think the finely carved 400,000-year-old spear tip from Clacton on Sea, England. Bone and antler were game changers, shaped into fishhooks, harpoons, and even decorative beads. By 20,000 years ago in China, early pottery emerged, hinting at new ways to store or cook food. Containers were critical. Early humans used gourds, shells, or sewn hide bags, and later, woven baskets. Hide preparation was an art. Stone scrapers cleaned skins, and bone needles stitched them into clothing or shelter covers. These tools weren't thrown together by chance. They were the result of generations of trial, error, and ingenuity. Every tool tells a story of solving a problem, whether it was butchering a mammoth or sewing a winter cloak. What tool would you want to try making? Let's hear it in the comments. Where did these people live? The Caveman label suggests caves, but that's only part of the story. Caves like Lascaux in France, with its stunning paintings, were cozy but rare, often used seasonally during harsh weather. Many built their own shelters. At Terra Amata, 380,000 years ago, people constructed oval huts with wooden posts. At Mezirik, Ukraine, 15,000 years ago, they arranged mammoth bones in circles, draped with hides, to create sturdy homes. Inside, hearths were the heart of the home, surrounded by spaces for sleeping, tool-making, and food prep. Daily life wove in practical tasks. Kids learned by doing, watching a hunter sharpen a spear or a forager sort berries. Hygiene was no afterthought. People bathed in streams and cleaned teeth with fibrous plants. Skeletons with healed fractures or disabilities show these bands cared for their own, even those who couldn't hunt or gather. Refuse was dumped away from living areas, keeping camps tidy. Imagine living in a mammoth bone hut. How cool would that be? Tell us your favorite ancient shelter in the comments. Paleolithic life wasn't just about surviving. It was rich with connection and creativity. Bands of 20 to 30 people, often related families, were tight-knit but not isolated. Trade networks stretched hundreds of miles, carrying exotic stones or shells. Communal feasts, like at Dolny Verstenice 29,000 years ago, saw groups gather around massive hearths, sharing food and stories. Food sharing built trust and obligation, gluing the band together. Art was a window into their souls. At Blombos Cave, South Africa, 100,000 years ago, people processed ochre for designs or body paint. By the Upper Paleolithic, cave paintings at Lascaux and Altamira burst with vivid animals and mysterious symbols. Tiny figurines, like the Venus of Willendorf, suggest rituals or ideals of beauty. Music was real bone flutes from Germany, 43,000 years old, played notes in recognizable scales. Imagine a campfire jam session with flutes and hidden drums. Some cave art, showing human-animal hybrids, hints at shamanic rituals or altered states of consciousness. Conflict? It happened, but skeletons show few violent injuries, suggesting cooperation was more common than fighting in a world where resources were often plentiful. What can we take from the Paleolithic today? First, these people were environmental masters. They didn't just survive nature, they shaped it. Selective hunting, plant management, and even controlled burns, like those by Australian Aboriginals 65,000 years ago, created thriving landscapes. Second, their knowledge was vast. Each person was a walking encyclopedia, knowing hundreds of plants, animals, weather patterns, and crafting techniques, a stark contrast to our specialized world. Third, their technology was elegantly simple. From spears to sewn hides, their tools solved problems with precision, laying the groundwork for modern inventions. Most importantly, the Paleolithic saw the birth of what makes us human: symbolic thinking. Cave art, music, and rituals show abstract minds at work, creating culture that bound communities together. This wasn't a primitive prelude to civilization. It was a wildly successful way of life that carried humanity through ice ages, across continents, and into the modern era. Their adaptability kept populations in balance with resources, something we might reflect on as we face our own environmental challenges. So, what did our Stone Age ancestors do every day? They tended fires, fetched water, hunted game, gathered plants, crafted tools, built shelters, raised kids, shared meals, told stories, made art, and adapted to whatever nature threw at them. They weren't fur-clad brutes, but skilled technologists, expert botanists, creative artists, and cooperative community members. The next time you hear caveman, picture a human as resourceful and resilient as you, thriving in a world we can only imagine. If this dive into the Stone Age blew your mind, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell for more epic history journeys. Tell us in the comments, what's the most surprising Paleolithic fact you learned today? Maybe it's their musical flutes or their mammoth bone huts. Let us know. Tomorrow we're exploring why you wouldn't survive 24 hours in the Stone Age. See you then.